Hey, what's going on, everybody? Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I appreciate you guys for tapping into yet another Akem's analysis. I got a really good video for you guys today. But first, L&M Fine Jewelry is my go-to destination for ring purchases. Me and my wife got all of our rings there, and they turned out absolutely beautiful. They take care of us from the second we stepped in their door and continue to be in our corner. It's a family-owned business, and you can tell from the second you're in their building. With a yes is the answer, what's the question philosophy, at L&M Fine Jewelry, they are excited to exceed your expectations. In the last year, they have opened up a new location in Kalispell. So whether you're in the Missoula location or you're in the Kalispell area, come to L&M Fine Jewelry, and they will take care of you. Business hours for both locations are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. They are closed on Sunday and Monday. The Missoula location is at 3465 American Way, and the Kalispell location is at 221 South Main Street. Go by and let them help you pick the ring for your special person. Make L&M Fine Jewelry your diamond destination. I know it's mine, and I mean that when I say it. L&M Fine Jewelry, they're absolutely amazing. Michael and Landy, they've taken great care of me and my wife, and I can't say enough good words about them. If you guys are looking to buy a ring for that special person, go buy L&M Fine Jewelry. They will take care of you, I promise. Whether you're in the Kalispell area or you're in the Missoula area, go check them out. They got great diamond selection, great ring selection. I mean, they have it all. They have all the answers for you. Go by and see them and let them help you pick out that ring. Okay, I have an amazing video for you guys today. First off, I want to talk about the Big Sky players who made the Shrine Bowl 1,000. And then there was a video from the MSU defensive coordinator, the new MSU defensive coordinator, maybe talking about how they have a chip on their shoulder. And I want to talk about that. So we're going to play that video. That's a video from SWX's Austin Parr. So we're going to show that video once we get to it. I had a fan in my comments asked me to do a top 25 FCS prediction. He might have just been talking about the Big Sky schools. I'm going to talk about my whole 2025 FCS prediction, and then I'm going to talk about the Big Sky schools in there. He also told me to give a win-loss prediction for each Big Sky team, so I'm excited to get into that, so please stay tuned for that. That's going to be really, really awesome. And then Tim Rosario wrote an amazing article, from the FCS Blue Bloods. He did an amazing job on this, a lot of statistics, a lot of data. The way he did it, I love it. He talked about how many true national championship contenders are there, and he took it all the way back to, I think 1995 was the year. It might have been 97, somewhere around there. He took it like the last 30 years. He wanted to look at how many true contenders have there been in the FCS, because I know a lot of people like to think there's 10 to 15 FCS contenders, and when you take his metrics and you look at how he did it, I think he did a phenomenal job of looking at where are the true contenders in the FCS and how many are there year over year. I think some of you may be shocked to know the number is not that high. And, yeah, I'm excited to get into that. I really loved reading that article. It was awesome. If you guys haven't read that, I'll try to link it in the description below the video, but please go check out that article. It was great. Read by Tim Rosario. So we're going to get into that at the end and talk about who he thinks and who the data says are the true contenders for the 2025 season. I don't even feel comfortable saying he. It's really the data dictates who the contenders are. He's not really basing it off of opinion. He's going based off data and metrics, and the data and metrics say there are not that many contenders this year. But we'll get into that when we get into it. So please make sure you guys hit the like. Please make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Please make sure you guys leave me a comment down below. I do read your comments. I appreciate all the comments you guys leave. Thank you guys for all the love and support. We will get straight into it. Okay. The Shrine Bowl is an all-star game that, kind of highlights some of the better players in college football, and it gives them an opportunity to get in front of scouts at the next level to take their talents to the NFL, CFL, UFL, overseas in the EFL. That is the opportunity for players to get in front of scouts. And we are going to be talking about some of the players who made that Shrine Bowl 1,000 out of the Big Sky Conference. There was a ton of FCS players on this list. We cover the Big Sky at Skyline Sports, so we're going to be talking about the Big Sky players on the Shrine Bowl 1,000. First things first is Nate Azzopardi, the guard out of Idaho. One of the players that decided to stay at the University of Idaho after last season when a ton chose to leave and follow Jason Eck. Nate Azzopardi is somebody who lands on the Shrine Bowl 1,000. Not going to lie to you, I haven't done a ton of research on Nate as a player, so I don't know a ton about him as a player, but very exciting. Idaho, up and down on them this year. I mean, I don't foresee them being the Big Sky champion. I see them being pretty competitive, but I don't know, with all the talent they lost. Obviously, they've done a good job recruiting, and I'm sure they got a ton of players. I really think it depends on their quarterback position. Next, you got Liam Brown, the tackle out of Montana. That is probably the biggest surprise I saw on this list, was Liam Brown, because obviously we know he's a talent and we know what he can do at on the offensive line, and he's got a ton of experience on that Montana offensive line. But I didn't necessarily see him as a player who maybe even had aspirations to play at the next level. Maybe I haven't been analyzing the offensive line position like that. To be fair, also, Montana's offensive line has not been great, and obviously you're not grading these guys as a team, you're grading them as individuals. But pretty awesome to see Liam Brown on this list. Now, obviously, he's on the list. That doesn't mean he's a lock to get a Shrine Bowl invite, but that means they're watching and they're paying attention. So it's something to look at. Now, this player, Eli Gilman from Montana, I was pretty interested to see his name on there, because obviously Eli Gilman came. His freshman year was his true freshman year was in 2022. He was a redshirt freshman in 23. Last season, he was a redshirt sophomore, meaning in the next season, this year in 2025, he's going to be a redshirt junior. Now, he could have left last year had he seen it fit. He can leave this year, but he does have another year. That's the thing with FCS players. A lot of times you don't see them leave early. It was a couple years ago, actually, that a Rhode Island player, it was actually in 2019, so almost half a decade ago, a player, more than half a decade ago, a player left Rhode Island a year early. He ended up getting drafted in the 4th round. He ran really well. I think he ran a high 4.4 or low 4.5, but he ended up getting drafted to the Texans. I don't know if he's still playing now. His name was Isaiah Coulter. I don't know where he's at now, but I think, honestly, if Eli wanted to leave, if he has a really good year, I could see if Eli had 1,500 yards this year, maybe 15 to 20, maybe 25 touchdowns this year, and added some receiving stats in there as well, I could definitely see Eli leaving. I don't know, having met Eli, I don't know if he's that type of player to leave early. I mean, obviously he stayed at Montana when he could have rightfully left and taken bigger money and a bigger opportunity at an FBS school. I don't know if that's the type of guy that Eli is. So I really foresee him staying another year and staying for his senior year, but who knows? I mean, people get in people's ears, agents start, I mean, this is the time, I'm sure this summer, Eli was probably getting accosted by some agents and having those conversations about, you know, if you want to leave this year, I'm the agent you should go with. You know, if you want to transfer. I mean, I know after my sophomore season, no, I was actually after my junior season, going into my senior season, there was agents talking to me. And obviously my junior into senior year was that COVID year. So there were some agents who honestly were telling me, hey, you should probably transfer. You should probably get out of this school. You know, scouts aren't going to respect your film at the FCS level. If you can, you should transfer and try to get a better opportunity at an FBS school so that your draft stock can go up, just based off going on against better competition. I'm sure Eli Gilman has been approached with those conversations. But I foresee Eli staying. But interesting to see him on this list. Obviously, he's a player at the FCS level. Obviously, he's one of the better running backs in the FCS, so he's for sure going to have an opportunity to leave. Next is Michael Wortham, Montana. They put him down as a wide receiver. Now, obviously, I just dropped a video on Michael Wortham. I don't know how much Montana is going to play him at wide receiver. Obviously, they're going to use him in the return game as a kick returner. He's an All-American there. An all-purpose player. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of touches at running back, maybe some jet sweeps at receiver. Now, him running routes as a receiver, I don't know what the plan is for that. And I don't know if obviously they have a plan for him. I'm not discounting that these coaches have a plan, but I don't really know where they're going to use him. Now, obviously, he's a talent and he's very athletic. He's very fast. He's good in the return game. And we just saw Junior Bergen get drafted to the Niners, and their coaching staff and special teams coordinators have mentioned that they drafted him as a returner. Now, obviously, they're going to play him at receiver, and he's going to do that. But he's a returner. So I see Michael Wortham in that same light and on that same trajectory. Next, you got Taco Dowler, who I also, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Taco Dowler is an underclassman as well. I'm going to look right now. I'm going to search it up and look at that 2025 football roster. On the 2025 roster, they have Taco Dowler as a junior as well. So not only Eli Gilman on there as an underclassman, but also Taco Dowler on there as an underclassman as well. I think a lot of times with these guys, it's like they redshirted, so they technically this will have been their 4th season in college. And I think with those all-star games, they're kind of putting that into perspective. Now with Taco Dowler, it's interesting because last year he was probably the top. He was the top. I mean, they had Ty McCullough as well, but I would probably say the Taco Dowler is probably their most versatile and best receiver on that roster. He's also really, really good in the return game, same as Michael Wortham. He's a punt returner though. I don't know if they kick return with Taco Dowler. I know he's a punt returner though. And he's really good at punt returning. Now, will Taco Dowler leave? I don't know. I could see maybe Taco Dowler transferring. I don't know, but obviously he's on this list, so pretty exciting for him. Not even really exciting. I mean, it's just something to take note of. This is nothing. I mean, this just means that people are watching, and I think that's the biggest thing for these players when you get put on these all-star lists, these preseason lists, is that okay, you know definitively now that people are watching and there are eyes on you. So not that it puts pressure on you to perform or anything like that, but people are watching. People got their eyes on you. Make sure you're on your P's and Q's. Make sure you're dialed because the film is going to tell the whole story, baby. Next, you got Titan Fleischman, 2 Montana State players on here, Taco Dowler and Titan Fleischman, the tackle out of Montana State. One of those linemen who also stayed. They lost Connor Moore last year. They lost, I'm blanking on the center's name, but they lost a few players last year. They lost some vets as well. And, you know, they're having to shuffle some guys in there. There's a ton of guys on that offensive line who have gotten snaps, not necessarily that have been starters their whole career. They got a ton of experience on that Montana State offensive line. Titan Fleischman is one of those, and he makes the Shrine Bowl 1000 preseason list. Next, you got Rex Connors out of UC Davis, safety out of UC Davis. He is probably, I mean, man, I saw Rex Connors at the Big Sky Media Day. I'm not gonna lie, man, like he was a little shorter than I thought he was. He looks much bigger on film. Not to take away from the talent that he is, multiple-time All-American, multiple-time All-Conference player. I mean, he's a guy. He's the best defensive player starting this season in the Big Sky Conference. I think definitively the best player in the Big Sky Conference. He's got the most pedigree. He's got the most stats. I mean, anything you want to say, Rex Connors is that guy. He's the preseason defensive player of the year in the conference. So, I mean, no surprise to see Rex Connors on here. He's put an amazing career together, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do this year. Last player on this list was Gavin Ortega, offensive tackle out of Weber State. I don't know much about Gavin Ortega. I don't, know a ton about Weber State. I know, they lost their quarterback from last year, but Weber State wasn't a great team last year. Obviously, they beat Montana last year, but outside of that and some of the players that they lost, Gavin Ortega is one of the guys that returns. So we'll see what Weber State is. I don't have super high hopes for Weber State this year, but once again, like I was saying, this list is simply just letting these guys know, hey, people are watching and they're excited to see you. So what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? The scouts are watching. So that's the Shrine Bowl 1000. Nate Azzopardi out of Idaho. Liam Brown out of Montana. Eli Gilman also out of Montana. Michael Wortham also out of Montana. Then you got Taco Dowler out of Montana State. Titan Fleischman out of Montana State. Rex Connors out of UC Davis. And then you got Gavin Ortega out of Weber State. You guys let me know what you guys think about these players. Do you think there's a player in the Big Sky Conference that the scouts are potentially sleeping on? Is there somebody that people need to have their eyes on, the next level it needs to have their eyes on? You guys let me know in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, Austin Parr has a recording from the defensive coordinator at Montana State. Defensive coordinator Sean Howe. This is from Austin Parr of SWX out of Bozeman. He said, in new MSU Bobcats defensive coordinator Sean Howe spoke with the media after practice this morning. Howe gave a great answer on how the players and even he are using offseason chatter about players lost as motivation for 2025. So to preface this video, as you guys know, the conversation for myself and a ton of people across the FCS landscape who cover the sport have been mentioning about Montana State. Obviously, they lost Tommy Mellott. Obviously, they lost Scott Trey Humphrey. Obviously, they lost Ty McCullough. They lost a lot of pieces on the offense, but on the defensive end as well, they lost Brody Grebe. They lost Rylan Ort. They lost some linebackers. They lost McCade O'Reilly. I mean, they lost pieces on defense. There's a lot of pieces that they've lost on that squad, offensively and defensively. Obviously, this is the defensive coordinator, but he was speaking on what he's saying to his players coming into this season. How to use that as motivation. So I'm going to play the video. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to play the video, and then we can talk about it following my thoughts. Or following the video, excuse me.
Sure. Well, when I first got this job and when I got to take over this defense, it was kind of a gathering of a bunch of people that heard about everybody else that left the building. And nobody wanted to talk about the people that were in the building. Me included, we were losing Coach Daly. What a stud, right? An all-time great Bobcat, a heck of a football coach, on down the line. All these players, we lose a Rylan Ort, we lose a Brody Grebe, we lose Danny Yu, we lose all these guys. And certain guys got in the portal and all that. We want to talk about everybody besides the guys that were returning. And I think the guys that were returning for a very intentional reason. Okay, and have a lot of pride in the success of this program and the way we do things. And when those guys are coming back, they were coming back and kind of hearing everybody talk about everybody else. I think it put a chip on everybody's shoulder, including me. I think it put us all to work and narrowed our focus a little bit. So, I think everybody feels that way, not just those young guys. Not just those young guys. I mean, the D line feels the same way. Sure.
I absolutely love this mentality from Sean Howe, the defense coordinator at Montana State. I mean, obviously the media is going to talk. Obviously people around the sport are going to talk, but you guys can't focus on that. And now you can hear the chatter. I mean, obviously I'm an OKC Thunder fan, so it was so funny to see when the OKC Thunder won the championship this year. Obviously people are calling them the first Gen Z team to win the NBA championship, because a lot of those guys were born post 2000. I mean, Shea, one of the older players on the team, I think he was born in 98, 99. I mean, it's a really, really young team. And one thing you saw after they won the NBA championship was they are receipts. We heard you. Oh, you said this. We'll never be able to win a championship. Also, I was there. I didn't tweet any receipts, but I think that's kind of what Sean Howe is trying to set up here. It's like, hey, you guys hear the chatter. You see, they're talking about, oh, we lost this person, myself included. He even mentioned how he's mentioned that they lost their defensive coordinator, Daly, a longtime Bobcat who played for the Bobcats and is going, I think he went to UTEP. But you see, even he fell victim to looking at the fact that, oh, we lost some players. Maybe we don't have this person. I think this is an amazing mentality for him to take and for him to give to his players. Hey, use that as fuel. They don't think you can do it. They don't think you're ready. That's how you got to do it as a defensive coordinator. I don't see any problem with him. I mean, and he didn't necessarily call anybody out, but he's doing what a coach and a defensive coordinator should do. Hey, I hear it too. It's out there. People are going to talk. When you're one of the better teams in the country, when you're the best team in the conference from last year, when you're the returning champion in the conference, people are going to have some things to say, and people are going to want to see you fall. And people are going to think that, oh yeah, you guys had all this talent, but you guys don't have any people in the ranks to come and carry the load. Now, I'm one of those people who think Montana State's not going to win the conference again this year. I'm one of those people who thinks that Montana State does not have necessarily the top tier talent to get to the top of the conference this year. I think they have a lot of talent. There's pieces on their team that are going to be very good, but can they put it together? I'm one of those people, but I love what Sean Howe said. I love how he's treating this. I love how he's taking, use it as motivation. That's what you got to do as a coach. Let this drive you. Let this eat at you. Let it pick at you. That's what you got to do. I'm excited to see what Montana State's able to do. Obviously, like we talked about, they've lost the talent that they've lost. It is what it is. We're not going to get back into that, but it'll be interesting to see how they open the season against Oregon. Obviously, Oregon is a team that is religiously in the top 5, top 10, top 15. They were undefeated wire to wire during the regular season last year. They lost in the playoff. They opened the season with them. I think that's going to be a good test for them to see what they do. But I think the bigger test for Montana State comes in when they play South Dakota State in week 2. We're going to get a good idea of what South Dakota State is in week 1 against Sac State. And then they get to play Montana State the next week. So not only does South Dakota State have a tough start to the season, Montana State also has a pretty interesting start to the season. And yeah, we'll see what it's going to be. It's so hard when you get in this part of the off season where you're just training camps in full swing and you're just about to start playing games. You just want to be able to have some games to analyze. I just want to see you on the field. I want to see what you look like. I'm kind of tired of the talking. I'm kind of tired of the speculation. Oh, who's going to be this? Who's going to be that? I'm a guy who likes to get into the film. I like to look at the TV copy. I like to look at the all 22, whatever I can get to where I can analyze the game over and over and over. Watch the plays that you're doing. Watch how your players are playing. Watch the effort. That's where I'm going to get my full gauge of who these teams are. You guys know how I like to do. I'm going to break down the games and I'm going to give my thoughts and I'm going to give the X's and O's and tell you what I see. But until that time comes, we're just left to speculate. We're just left to talk about it. We're just left to see who's on the roster, who we can resonate with the roster, who we think is going to be a player on the roster, and who we do not think is going to be a player on the roster. But from Sean Howe, from Montana State's defense perspective, amazing mindset. This is how you have to treat it. This is how you have to come to the table. You got to be that way. You 100% have to be that way. And, I do not fault him for that. He said exactly what he was supposed to say in the media. So that video is from Austin Parr, at Austin Parr TV on Twitter, or X if you call it. He works for SWX. Great job for him getting that quote from Sean Howe. He does an amazing job for SWX covering the Montana State Bobcats. So you guys let me know what you guys think about Sean Howe's quote. during after practice, and I will move on. Okay, like I mentioned in the lead up to the video, in the beginning of the video, I had a fan comment on my video and say he would like a top 25 FCS prediction, but they would also like a win-loss prediction for each Big Sky team. So first off, we're gonna get my top 25 FCS prediction. Take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, you know, I'm not somebody who covers the entire FCS. I like to break down a lot of the games in the FCS. I also like to break down some of the players across the FCS. But take this with a grain of salt. Like, I don't know everything. Who am I? I'm just Sammy Akem, Skyline Sports, you know. But first things first, we got NDSU at number 1. I have South Dakota at number 2. I have South Dakota State at number 3. I have Incarnate Word at number 4. I have Sac State at number 5. And I want to cut in here real quick before I finish. As you remember, I picked Sac State to win the Big Sky. So in looking at my top 25 FCS prediction, also understand where I have Sac State finishing in the conference. So at number 6, I had Montana. At number 7, I had Illinois State. At number 8, I had Tarleton State. At number 9, I have Montana State. Might anger some people in there. At number 10, I have Rhode Island. At number 11, I have UC Davis. At number 12, I have Mercer. At 13, I have Idaho. At 14, I have Southern Illinois. At 15, I have Northern Arizona. At 16, I got Nova, Villanova. At 17, I got Jackson State. At 18, I got Lehigh, a playoff team from last year. At 19, I got Monmouth. They probably have the best quarterback in the conference or in the nation returning. And then at 20, I got Tennessee Tech. At 21, I got Stephen F. Austin, former Montana quarterback Sam Vidlag out there. At number 22, I have Abilene Christian, a playoff team from 2024. At number 23, I got Stony Brook. At 24, I have Richmond, who is now playing in the Patriot League. And at number 25, I have Harvard. Harvard now eligible for the playoffs. Those Ivy Leagues now eligible for the playoffs. Yeah, so that's my top 25 prediction. The Big Sky School rankings, number 5 was Sac State. Number 6 was Montana. Number 9 was Montana State. Number 11 was UC Davis. Number 13 was Idaho. And number 15 was NAU. Now, one thing I want to cut in here and say, and I should have said this before I did this, with the fan, you weren't very specific with your question. So I didn't know if you were talking about a preseason prediction or a like end of, you said prediction. So I took it as an end of season prediction. So as you can see, that's my end of season top 25 poll prediction. That would be like the way I gauged it was like end of season. Cause when you say prediction, I mean, obviously I can predict, but predicting where I think they're going to be ranked, I think is kind of, I don't know. So I was really projecting to the end of the season. And that's my end of the season prediction. You guys can let me know in the comments what you think about that. But Big Sky Schools, once again, Sac State at number 5, Montana at 6, Montana State at 9, UC Davis at 11, Idaho at 13, and NAU at 15. That is my top 25 FCS prediction. I'm not going to give too many thoughts on that because, you know, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think about that, and I will move on. Okay. Win-loss prediction for each Big Sky team. Now this, I took some time on this. I wanted to really look into this. And so I've never done this before. I've never done a win-loss prediction. I know this is something that people do during the off-season, really leading into the, around training camp time, leading into the season during the summer. I've never done this. So what I did was I looked at each Big Sky team and I looked at how many minimum wins do I think they could get? How many minimum wins I think they could get? So I looked at their schedule and I kind of looked at, you know, what team each team had and how many wins do I think at minimum each team in the conference could get. And, you know, obviously beat me up at the comments if you think I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong. I love that. But at number 1, we got Montana. At minimum, I think Montana could go 9-3. And that is also why when you look at the preseason polls, when you look at the preseason predictions and things like that, Montana is high in the ranks because when you look at Montana's schedule, it is favorable. They start the season with Central Washington, for crying out loud. I mean, like, Montana has a very favorable schedule. Now, the games that the 3 losses on Montana, and this is for each team, the losses for each team is the games that I think are kind of toss-ups. The games that I think could go either way. It's like, I don't really know who could win this game. It could really go for some of the teams, like for Montana, for some of the top, I'd say for the top 5 teams on this list, and maybe even Sac State's at 10. It's not a ranking or anything, but for the top 5 teams on here, The losses are games where I think it could either be it's either in the air or it's a loss. So I said 9 wins. I think Montana should at minimum get 9 wins. Obviously, we know what goes on during the season, but I think at minimum Montana's record should be 9-3. Now, obviously, the games are going to be played. I say this all the time. The games are played on Saturdays, so we can do all this talking, we can do all this predicting, we can do all this. The X's and O's are done by the coaches in the locker, the coaches in the coaching staff, and the players in the locker room. So the games are going to be played, but I think at minimum Montana should be 9-3. Those 3 losses or toss-up games would be Idaho, Sac State, and Montana State. Obviously, 2 rivalry games in there, and then Sac State, my preseason pick for Big Sky champion. Yeah, I mean those are the 3 that are kind of toss-ups. At number 2, we got Montana State. At minimum, I think Montana State should go 8-4 in 2025. Who are those toss-ups or losses? Oregon, I would say that's probably a loss. South Dakota State, that's a toss-up. UC Davis, a toss-up, and Montana is a toss-up. But at minimum, I think Montana State should be 8-4. So really, my over-under for their wins and losses should be 8. Are they going to get over 8? Are they going to get under 8? I think that's dictated on those 4 games. But I think at minimum, Montana State should be 8-4. At number 3, we got Idaho. At minimum, Idaho should be 7-5. Who are those toss-ups? Montana, San Jose State, probably a loss. UC Davis, Sac State, and Washington State. So they at least have 2 losses, in my opinion, with San Jose State and Washington State. I think Sac State, UC Davis, and Montana are toss-ups for them. But I think at minimum, they should be 8 and they should be 7-5. Excuse me. That's Idaho. Number 4, we got UC Davis. At minimum, I think UC Davis should be an 8-4 football team. Who are their toss-ups? You got Idaho, you got Sac State, you got Montana State, and you got UW. So UW's most likely a loss, but I mean, Sac State could really go 11 not Sac State. UC Davis could really go 11-1. They got Idaho, Sac State, and Montana State, and I think out of the 3 top teams out of some of the top teams in the conference, I think UC Davis is one of the teams that, out of the playoff teams from last year, I think UC Davis has maybe the toughest schedule out of all of them. When you look at Montana, they got Idaho, Sac State. A lot of these teams play NAU. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. At minimum, UC Davis should be an 8-4 football team, in my opinion. Those 4 toss-ups are Idaho, Sac State, MSU, and UW. At number 5, we got NAU. I think at minimum, NAU should be a 7-5 football team. At minimum. Now, obviously, all these teams, I don't think all these teams can end up with these records. I don't know how to do all the logistics of all that. I'm not getting into all that, but NAU at minimum, in my opinion, should get 7 wins. UC Davis, Incarnate Word, Montana State, Arizona State, and Idaho are those toss-ups for NAU. But I think at minimum, NAU should be a 7-5 football team. Idaho State, at minimum, I think they can get to 5-7. UC Davis, UNLV, New Mexico, probably 2 losses. Montana State, Idaho, Montana, and NAU. I mean, Idaho State plays everybody. They play UC Davis. They play Montana State. They play Idaho. They play Montana. They play NAU. They play all the playoff teams from last year. So when you're looking at strength of schedule, I know I did that a few months ago. NAU was at 6 in terms of strength of the toughest strength of schedule. Weber State was number 1. Idaho is at the bottom of that list with the easiest strength of schedule. So, I mean, if anybody was to hit their number, it definitely should be Idaho. Anyway, at NAU, I got a minimum of 7-5. Idaho State, I got a minimum of 5-7. At Weber State, I think at minimum, they should be a 4-8 football team. I see 4 wins on their schedule. Those 8 toss-ups are NAU, Idaho State, Montana, UC Davis, Sac State, and then they got James Madison in Arizona. So at least 2 losses, 2 losses for sure in James Madison and Arizona. No offense, Weber State. If you guys get Arizona, if you guys get James Madison, hey, I'm with you right there. But I think at minimum, Weber State is going to be a 4-8 football team. I don't foresee them being one of the top teams in the conference. I've said this all off season. I just don't think they have the same talent level that they had, at least during my career. When I was in school from 16 to 21, Weber State was one of those teams that you had to be on the lookout for. I think during the 2020, 21, around there when Jay Hill left, things started to kind of wean off. But I think at minimum, Weber State is 4-8. I think they're closer to 4-8 than they are to a top team in the conference. But hey, crazier things have happened. So we will see from Weber State. And number 8, we got Eastern Washington. I think at minimum, Eastern Washington's a 4-8 football team. I think one of the biggest things for them is defense. I mean, what is that defense going to look like? You know, you got to get a stop, man. You got to get a stop. Eastern Washington is always going to find a way to move the ball, whether it's on the ground, whether it's through the air. I mean, they are always going to find a way to be productive on offense. Defensively, you need to find a way to stop people. Who are those 8 toss-ups? Incarnate Word, Boise State, UNI, Northern Iowa, Montana State, Idaho, Weber State, Sac State, and Montana. Now, with Eastern Washington, they could probably get they probably can get Weber State. I mean, I don't know with either of those teams. Both of them, I predict 4-8 4-8 is their minimum record for them. But there are for sure wins on those schedules for Eastern Washington and Weber State. Now, I didn't put what I think their for sure wins should be on here, which is probably a miss by me. But at minimum, I think Eastern Washington is a 4-8 football team in 2025. Cal Poly, they at minimum should be 1-11. Now, you got Utah, you got Stephen F. Austin, you got Sac State, you got UC Davis, you got Montana, you got Montana State, you got Portland State, you have Idaho State, you have NAU, you have Eastern Washington, and you have San Diego, all on that Cal Poly list. Cal Poly hasn't been one of the better teams in the conference, and especially since they've switched from the triple option to they were air raid. I don't know if you'd still consider them air raid. But I mean, Cal Poly has never really been a staple in the Big Sky Conference. Now, I think they've had their years, but I think for the most part, you know, Cal Poly is where they're at. But at minimum, they're 1-11. So I see one win on their schedule. Everything else, and let me say this, you know, I could see them beating Portland State. I could see them beating Idaho State. I could maybe even see them beating NAU and Eastern Washington, and they could definitely beat San Diego. I mean, the Pioneer Conference is good. They're not great. They play good football, but we know what the Pioneer Conference. So I put 1-11 at minimum. But like I said, with some of these toss-ups, it's like, you know, Portland State, they could certainly beat them. Idaho State, Cal Poly could certainly beat them. Eastern Washington, Cal Poly could certainly beat them. But I wanted to gauge it off of the for sure win. So who do I think they should for sure? No questions asked. Who should these teams beat? I think at minimum, there was only one game on there that I saw that I thought Cal Poly should definitively win. I think it was a D2 or D3. I think one of these teams is playing Chadron State. I can't remember who, but it might have been Cal Poly, but that is the for sure win on their calendar. Now we got Sac State. Now, Sac State does have Nevada, and they do play South Dakota State to start the season. So I think I said for a Sac State. Now, you know, Sac State is my preseason pick for conference champion. I think at minimum, Sac State should be a 7-5 football team. Now, hold up. Before you say, because I know I had Montana at 9-3. I know I had MSU at 8-4. I had UC Davis at 8-4. What the hell's going on, Sammy? I know. 7-5 at minimum. I think there's some toss-ups in there with South Dakota State, Montana, Idaho, UC Davis, and Nevada. Now, they could certainly beat all of these teams. And to be the conference champion, they're going to need to beat Montana, Idaho, and UC Davis. Now, I have Montana, Idaho, and UC Davis as toss-ups because obviously UC Davis is a rivalry game. Montana, Idaho, I don't know whether they get those games at home or on the road. I think Montana might be going to Sacramento this year because I know in 23 Sac State came here. Either way, like 7-5 at minimum. They got 7 wins on their schedule, in my opinion, at minimum. There are some games that they could mess around with, and those are going to be the games that really decide it for them. The South Dakota State, Montana, Idaho, UC Davis game, especially that South Dakota State game, they opened the season with that. We are going to know 100% from the first game of the season for Sac State if they are who they say they are, if they are who I think they are. They are going to prove me right or they're going to prove me wrong, and you guys are going to come in my comments and say, Sammy, you are dumb. And I will say, yes, you know, I was a little ahead of myself. Now, they could bump their head against South Dakota State and then run the table in the Big Sky Conference. I mean, we don't know, and that's what I was making in the earlier segment in this video today is like, we really, at this point in the season, man, I just want to watch some football. I just want to see them play, man. Like, can we just go and do it? Can we stop talking about it? And can we go do it? Because your play on the field is going to dictate it all at the end of the day, man. That is what's going to dictate it. That's what is going to control it. But I think at minimum, Sac State is a 7-5 football team. I think that is the absolute minimum, man. 7-5. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. Next, we got Portland State. At minimum, I think they're a 2-10 football team. Who are those 10? Tarleton, BYU, Tarleton a playoff team in 2024, North Dakota, Hawaii, NAU, Eastern Washington, Weber State, Idaho, Sac State, Montana. So Portland State, I mean, there's no hiding in the conference. You got NAU, you got Idaho, you got Sac State, you got Montana, you got Tarleton. I mean, Portland State always is a team that I feel like, especially in their non-conference schedule, they got BYU and Hawaii. I mean, they get beat up a little bit in their non-conference schedule. There was a year, I think it was last year, where they had like a tough non-conference schedule. One of those games they didn't even end up playing, but they had South Dakota. That game got canceled. But I think they had Washington State. They had a couple other teams, but they had a tough non-conference schedule. Portland State at minimum is a 2-10 football team. At minimum. Finally, we got Northern Colorado. I think at minimum, Northern Colorado is a 1-11 football team. I think that might have been the squad that had Chadron State on their schedule. One of these teams had Chadron State on their schedule. But Northern Colorado at minimum is 1-11. Who are those 11? Colorado State, South Dakota, Houston Christian, Idaho State, Idaho, Sac State, UC Davis, Montana State, NAU, Eastern Washington, and Portland State. So, I mean, we know what Northern Colorado is in the conference. We don't have to get in on them. We don't have to go in on them right now. I mean, they are who they are. I think they have a huge problem with recruiting at Northern Colorado. I just don't think people want to go there to play. I just don't think people want to go there to play football, unfortunately. So, Northern Colorado at minimum 1-11. Those are my win-loss predictions for the Big Sky Conference. I know it was a little wacky. I didn't say a definitive win-loss record. I really did wins. How many wins do I think? And it's really more so like an over-under for me. But at minimum, I think these are the wins that these teams should get. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, we are gonna finish this video with the topic that I am most excited about to attack. This was a great article from Tim Rosario of the FCS Blue Bloods. He broke down who the true contenders in the FCS are year over year. And first and foremost, I think he did a phenomenal job on this article. Took him a lot of time to get this data together, so please go read that and give him your thoughts. I'm going to be looking at the last 10 years of who the true contenders in FCS football were, and then we're going to talk about who he thinks the contenders for 2025 are. First things first, I'm going to share my screen. I mean, just look at these last 10 years of contenders. And so, for fair warning, he mentioned in the article how there's not a ton of data on FCS football. There's not a ton of data on, there's just not a ton of data. If you cover the FCS, you know that there's not a ton of data. Not a lot of people are getting numbers and statistics and things like that for FCS football. But I think, with the metric that he was using Massey ratings, and he was using 6.5 as a gauge for how low, the metric was the number one team, whoever finished as the national champion in FCS football. Then we're going to base it off teams that were closely rated in them in Massey ratings to those squads. So when you look at the data, man, there are not that many contenders in the FCS year over year. Just look at 2024. What the numbers tell you the contenders were in 2024. South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State, and South Dakota. All four teams who made the semifinals in the FCS national championship, the FCS playoffs. I mean, in 2023, South Dakota State, mind you, Montana made the national championship in 2023. Based on the metrics and based on the numbers, they were not deemed a true title contender in 2023, and they won that game 23-3. I mean, it was not a close game. Montana had their opportunities. They didn't capitalize. That South Dakota State defense was dominant. And they were a horse in 2023. South Dakota State and North Dakota State in 2022. I mean, North Dakota State, James Madison, and South Dakota State in 21. North Dakota State, South Dakota State, James Madison, Sam Houston State. You got North Dakota State, James Madison. 2021, we actually lost to James Madison that year. I think they might have made it to the semis and lost to NDSU that year. I think 21's actually the year. No, that Montana State. So 21's the year that Montana State made the Natty, and they are not even on here. I mean, crazy. 2018, North Dakota State, they were a horse. 2017, North Dakota State, James Madison. The teams in black are the national champions. For you, those of you who haven't read the article yet, James Madison, North Dakota State, and Eastern Washington in 16. I think 16, they made it. I think they made it to the semis. Maybe Eastern Washington did. I think that was the last year of Cooper Kupp's career, because that was my freshman year. 2015, North Dakota State, Northern Iowa. Mind you, Montana beat North Dakota State this year. One thing, and obviously I'm a Montana guy. I'm an alum. I went to the University of Montana, so it's crazy to see that in some of these years when I would have thought that Montana State even Montana State also, like 21, Montana State went to the Natty, and they're not on this list. But there's some years on here where Montana and Montana State both had really good squads. There's a ton of teams. I'm talking about the Big Sky Conference. I'm talking about some of the teams in the Big Sky Conference. But even Sac State won three straight Big Sky championships, and they're not on here. I mean, one thing this shows definitively, and this was in some of the takeaways that Tim mentioned in the article, was that the Big Sky is not as dominant as some may believe. And I'm one of those people that believes the Big Sky Conference is maybe the top, if not one of the top two conferences in FCS football. The data does not necessarily back that up. I mean, the Big Sky Conference is supremely successful. They have a ton of good football, a ton of good talent. They play good football. But I think when it comes down to it, you gotta win in the trenches. You gotta win on the defensive line. You gotta win on the offensive line. And for some reason, that is not something that has been elite in the Big Sky Conference. Now, you've seen Montana State in recent years. They've always been kind of this squad for the last, I'd say, like close to 10 years. Montana State has been this squad that they've been a ground and pound football team. That's what they're going to prioritize first. And even them, they didn't make this list. Montana State is on here one time, and that was last year when they were an absolute horse. They ran the table all season long, didn't lose a game until the national championship game. I mean, they made it in 24. They didn't make it in 23. They didn't make it in 22. Montana didn't make it. I mean, the Big Sky Conference, let's see how many teams are on the Big Sky are from the Big Sky Conference in here. One in 2016 over the last 10 years, obviously. I think it's two. Two times there's a Big Sky team on here. The rest is a majority of the rest is a majority Missouri Valley. And then obviously James Madison is the outlier in there out of the CAA when they were in the FCS. But there's literally two Big Sky teams on here. Montana State and Eastern Washington. And then the rest is Missouri Valley. And that's just the last 10 years. Another thing that this article did an amazing job of showing is that we always think, and I said this at the beginning of the video when I started this today's show, we always think that there's 10 to maybe 15 contenders in the FCS. Earlier in FCS, there were some numbers that showed earlier in FCS there were more contenders. There was a higher number of contenders usually in the FCS. But in recent time, there's usually only 3 to 4 contenders in the FCS. You are not going to see a year where there are 10 to 15 true contenders. We're talking about true contenders. What the data, what the numbers say are contenders who can seriously contend for a national championship. And another thing Tim did that's really good is obviously he's using data. He's using Massey ratings. You can say what you think about these ratings. But one thing that he also mentioned in the article was that any team under that 6.5, I can't remember exactly what the 6.5 number, I think it was based on end of season Massey. So all these teams are based on end of season Massey ratings. But based on that end of season Massey rating, any team that was 6.5 points or lower didn't make the cut. So you had to be within 6.5 points of that national championship team Massey rating. And based on that, and some people might say, well, what about the teams that did win? No team that was under 6.5 has won a national championship. So understand that. He did a phenomenal. These are the numbers, folks. These are the numbers, folks. There are not that many contenders in the FCS year over year. Now, it was hard for him. He mentioned it's difficult to predict who the contenders are going to be for the 2025 season because he did this based on end of season data. So it's kind of hard to predict, but he did take a hand at, so we're going to look at who he thinks are going to be the contenders in the 2025 season. But I just want to hang on to this for one more second, man. The MVFC has been extremely dominant in FCS football. And I'm somebody who's made videos on how do you fix that, man? And I think coaching is a big thing. There's really great coaches in the Big Sky Conference. I'm not taking away from coaching. Quarterback play is a big thing. There were some really good quarterbacks in the MVFC. There have been really good quarterbacks. I mean, first round draft picks. You got Trey Lance. You got Carson Wentz. You got Cam Miller. You got Mark Gronowski. I mean, Cam Miller, Mark Gronowski, not first round draft picks, but Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, both NDSU products. I mean, amazing players out of the FCS. Amazing players out of the MVFC. This one shows the dominance of the MVFC, the dominance of North Dakota State. And I think it just shows that, like, although you can try, it is very, very hard to get into that true upper echelon of FCS football and truly become a contender. And this is not opinion-based. This is data-based. So understand that the numbers say that year over year, there's an average of 4 contenders in a given season. And that's based on he did like a 30-year metric. I told you guys he did it based on like 95 to 2024. And based on all of those years, there's only an average of 4. And I think he did based on like the last 11 years, there's only an average of like 2.3 national championship contenders. So you're talking about 2 true national championship contenders over the last 10 years, an average of 2 to 3 national championship contenders. That is crazy because everybody talks about this is our year. we have a chance this year. We can get there this year. But the data doesn't back that up, man. And the data doesn't back that Montana was a contender in 23. Montana was a contender in 24. I'm talking about Montana, obviously, because I went to Montana. But I mean, a ton of schools. Take whatever school and insert it in there. The year that you thought they were a contender, they probably were not. Just because you guys had a good quarterback, you guys had a couple of receivers. Like, I'm thinking about the years that I was at Montana. 19? I mean, if you guys know what we had on that 19 Montana squad, I thought we were a wagon, man. Now, obviously, we dealt with some injuries, and obviously, this is based on end of the season metrics. So, you know, there could have been some things that happened, like injuries and things like that during the season that may have pushed some teams out of being a contender potentially. So we don't want to look past that. The data tells the story, but obviously, there's some things that it's not going to tell. Understand that, but for the most part, like, I thought we were a horse, man. I thought we were for sure a contender. We lost in the quarterfinals to Weber State in a very close, rainy, snowy game. But, I mean, I would have thought that we were a contender that year. Maybe even 2021, I thought we had a pretty good squad as well. Maybe we would have been a contender. I'm sure the Grizz fans thought we were a contender. The data doesn't back that up, man. And you can insert any team you want in here. But interesting data, amazing data. I will link that article in the comment section down below. I would really love everybody to read that. Tim Rosario did an absolutely phenomenal job on that. I mean, we don't, and the one thing I love about it, let me give Tim his flowers for a second. Like, we don't get to see numbers and just like in-depth, not a ton of time, not all the time. I don't think we get to see really, really in-depth data like that, you know, really breaks down the numbers and really is using ratings and taking the time to really dedicate some time to put an article together like this, so it gives people a real idea of where teams really sit and what the true contenders are. I mean, awesome, Tim. I can't give you your flowers enough. Article was amazing. I got some quotes from there in it. From 1995 to 2010, there was an average of 5.5 true national title contenders each season. Since 2011, that number has dropped to 2.3 if we exclude the shortened 2021 spring season. Brother, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. Another one, since 2011, the MVFC has featured 22 national title contenders, while the rest of the country has only had 11 teams combined. The MVFC has featured 22 national title contenders since 2011. That's 2 every year. While the rest of the country has had only 11 teams combined. They've only had 1. And some of the years that you saw in the last, since 2011, we only had since 2014 on there in the photo that I showed. But since 2011, what are we? I mean, 11 combined? That is crazy, man. That is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So Tim took a stab at talking about who he thinks this year's national title contenders are going to be. Now, mind you, I'll say again, the article that he wrote was based on end of season numbers. So him predicting who he thinks the contenders are going to be is simply based on rosters and things that you can collect during the preseason. So his true national title contenders for the 2025 season: North Dakota State, Montana State, and South Dakota State. 2 teams that have won a national championship in the last couple of years, and 1 team that was there last year who won the Big Sky and was undefeated until the national championship game. I mean, based on the data, that is who history would tell us. And I'm not going to give away too much more of the article that I've already talked about, but he mentioned some other things as to why these teams are where they are, why he thinks these teams are going to be what they're going to be. But I want you guys to go read the article to see that, because he did a great job of talking about that. Who are the fringe contenders for the 2025 season? South Dakota, Incarnate Word, Montana, and UC Davis. This is based on historical data. This is based on what the numbers tell us. And this is based on what we can gather coming into this season, who the contenders will be based on what the data has showed us. And what the data has showed us is that the teams that can sneak into that national title contender are South Dakota, Incarnate Word, Montana, and UC Davis. Potential. So these are teams that have a slim chance of becoming a national title contender. Probably not going to happen, but they are the next up baton behind the fringe contenders. You got Tarleton State. You got Abilene Christian. You got Stephen F. Austin, and you got Rhode Island. You guys do what you want with that data, but I just want to one more time before I get off this topic. Please go read Tim Rosario's article. He took a lot of time to do this. He put his effort into it, and he did a phenomenal job. But one more time, too. Only 4 national title contenders every year. If you ask anybody across the FCS landscape, they would probably, now outside of Sam Herder. Sam Herder's been somebody who's been singing this without having the data to back it up, but has been singing this for a very, very long time. Sam Herder has been somebody who's been saying, there are not a lot of contenders in the FCS. There are not a lot of people who can compete with the Missouri Valley, particularly South Dakota State and mainly North Dakota State. But there are not a lot of teams who are really to that level. A lot of people think they are at that level, but it's not true. You truly need an elite football team at the FCS level. And I know a lot of people like to downplay the FCS as if it's lesser than D1 football. They can compete with the FBS, the North Dakota States, the South Dakota States, the Montana States. They can compete. The teams that were I'm just mentioning the teams that were at the top last year. Obviously, year over year that changes, but like we beat an FBS team. But like year over year, just because even if you beat an FBS team, that doesn't mean you're an FCS national title contender. We beat UW in 2021. We were technically not a national championship contender. Montana State beat New Mexico last year. They were a contender based on the data. But it varies year over year. You need a lot to win a national championship at the FCS level, man. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think people understand that, but I think, it's more than you think. A lot of people think, when you got a decent offensive line, you got a decent quarterback, you got a decent defense, you can make stops on defense. I think they think, oh, we're a national championship contender. No, you truly need a squad that is buttoned up from top to bottom. You need a quarterback who can run your offense flawlessly. You need a running back who can get things done. You need a receiver or two who can make plays. North Dakota State last year, Trey Lance, #1 guy, best receiver in FCS, best receiver in the playoffs for sure by far. Well, Darius Cooper had a pretty good game against South Dakota. But for the most part, Bryce Lance was the best receiver in the playoffs last year. They had a good offensive line. They had a good defensive line. They had good linebackers. They had good safeties. I think the weakest part of that North Dakota State squad last year that really didn't get exposed in the playoffs too much was their secondary, because that was a unit that was getting exposed all season long. But when it mattered most, they came together. And then coaching. Obviously, coaching is a piece as well. But, you truly need everything to come together for you to be a contender and for you to win a national championship. And I think people, myself included, we always like to say that, oh, this team is there, this team is there, this team is there, this team can get there. And it's just not true, man. It's just not true. So lastly, great job, Tim Rosario. Please go read that article. I'm going to link it in the comment section below, but I hope you guys all go read that. He did a phenomenal job. But to put a bow on it, there are not that many national championship contenders year over year, and it's just going to get less with the weeding out and the watering down of the SCS. You guys let me know what you guys think about some of these numbers and some of this data, and I will move on. Okay, that is going to conclude my Akem'S analysis for this week. I want to thank you guys so much for tapping into the channel. I got some great things planned for the football season this year. I'm really excited to see all of you guys as I do the pregame, postgame show with the Grizz this year. Make sure you guys come check us out. Come see us on the stage. Come give us some love. Come show some love. Come take a pic. What it is, whatever. But, I thank you guys so much for tapping into the channel. Season is approaching. I mentioned this during the video, but, man, I'm so excited for the season. I'm so ready for the season. I'm tired of talking about nothing. I'm obviously talking about something, but I'm tired of just talking. I want to analyze. I want to see the games. I want to be able to look at some football, man. Let's look at what these teams look like. I'm tired of talking about what they look like. I want to see what they look like. Obviously, Montana opens up training camp this week. Montana State opened up training camp last week. UC Davis, I think, also opened up training camp either last week or the week before. They played week 0. They opened the season against Mercer. That is a very, very exciting game. I'm excited for. Mercer was a playoff team last year, a seeded team, as well as UC Davis. They opened the season for the FCS opener in week 0. UC Davis, I will be breaking down that UC Davis Mercer game this year. Not this year, but during week 0. I'm excited to see what they're able to do. I don't have high hopes for UC Davis, but that's going to be a really good game. Really, really good game. So I want to thank you guys for tapping in. Make sure you guys hit the like. Please subscribe to the channel. We're very, very close to 2,000 subscribers. We're almost at 1,900. Once we get to 1,900, the next number is 2,000. So get me over that 2,000 subscriber number. I really, really appreciate it. And anybody who's subscribed right now has already subscribed to the channel. For all you guys who have been faithfully listening to my channel, you guys have no idea what it means, man. I love doing this. I appreciate you guys being able to support me to do this. And, I want to keep doing this. So please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, and let me know what you guys think down below. Please leave me a comment. You guys know I love seeing your comments. So leave a comment down below, and I will catch you guys next time. See you later.